This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 6th of August 2021, and I am GK.
I am AX.
I am CS. In today's headlines, Daily Nation, Uhuru, Raila MPs craft new BBI bill. The Standard, Ruto, I will leave Jubilee when I want. And in the Star, DP Ruto trashes Kenyatta's legacy. Quite interesting headlines. X, why don't you kick us off?
With pleasure. So, in the past week, we have been treated to the hypocrisies of our dear Deputy President. I am frustrated because the Deputy President appears to want to eat his cake and have it too. He wants the privileges of a private citizen but will not resign from his post.
Nope.
He wishes to remove himself from Jubilee's failures but continues to associate himself with their successes. And now he won't leave Jubilee even though he is the de facto head of another political party. This level of hypocrisy would be maddening if this were in politics. So today, I would like to talk about the different kinds of hypocrisy in politics as they pertain to our poor deputy.
Okay.
In his book, Political Hypocrisy, David Runciman argues that we should accept hypocrisy as a fact of politics. As such, we should not strive for the removal of all hypocrisy from politics, but rather a specific type of hypocrisy, malicious hypocrisy.
Absolutely.
According to Runciman, there are two kinds of hypocrisy, malicious and fashionable. Fashionable hypocrisy, which is the type we accept in our politics, is about deceiving yourself, while malicious hypocrisy, which is the type we expel from our politics, is about deceiving others. Malicious hypocrites know themselves to be false, but still play at authenticity and virtue in order to deceive those who believe them to be true, as well as conceal the sinister deeds. Conversely, fashionable hypocrites know that they are false, but do not wish to use the dishonesty against others. This is the difference between a man who keeps his eyes open as he prays and a certain Brussels-bound man publicly tithing millions of shillings to multiple churches as a form of political seduction.
You said it.
Could it be that Ruto is a malicious hypocrite?
Yes.
In our view, he uses the hustler narrative not because he believes in it, but because he knows that it is his best bet at securing the numbers he needs to win. He defends the constitution he campaigned against, not because he believes in it, but because it allows him to paint himself as the defender of the people. And most recently, he refuses to leave Jubilee, not because he is loyal, but because he wants the clout from Jubilee's successes, not to mention the sympathy he has so far garnered. Could it be that at every point, Ruto has played at authenticity in order to deceive the public? If that is the case, we must ask ourselves a very simple question. What kind of hypocrite should we choose as our next leader? A man who paints himself as a victim because he, the deputy president, failed to follow protocol? Or a man who keeps his eyes open as he prays?
Wow.
That reminds me of a saying, talking about hypocrisy, that you can fool some of the people, some of the time.
Yes.
All of the people,
Not
some of the time, but you cannot fool all of the people, all of the time.
Yes.
GK, what is your submission to that?
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we can now formally announce that William Ruto is the self-declared confused leader of the opposition. But I must say that William Ruto's role in the opposition is no surprise. In fact, in our view, it was bound to happen. Allow me to explain. The handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga, the legitimate leader of the opposition, had the effect of co-opting the opposition into government. Kenya morphed into a quasi-one-party state. Before you react, yes, there were other parties, but they did not oppose government, and this was a great thing. However, the unintended consequence of the handshake was that it created a vacuum in opposition leadership. Well, power abhors a vacuum. Therefore, an alternative opposition, let's call it UDA, under new leadership, say William Ruto, was bound to emerge and fill this vacuum. Now that I have explained this fact, I must make two observations. The first observation is to my fellow Kenyans, and I will take a leaf from political history. Situations of total cooptation, such as the handshake that swallowed the legitimate opposition, have been known in the past to give rise to demagogues. Well, a demagogue is a political leader who seeks support by appealing to the desires and prejudices of the masses rather than by using rational argument. Could it be that the hustler nation and bottom-up economics are the rallying call of our very own demagogue?
Yes.
Well, my second observation comes from our own history, and it is directed to William Ruto. If our political history has taught us anything, it has taught us that the opposition almost never wins a presidential election. In 1992, Kibaki and Matiba could not beat Moi. In 2007, Raila was unable to defeat Kibaki. And in 2013, Raila was unable to defeat Uhuru. The lesson from history is that while the opposition garners enough support to be significant, it has never been strong enough to take up the space of the presidency. Maybe William Ruto was allowed to become the opposition to swindle him out of the presidency. And sometimes, for all of you, we need to look backwards before we can look forward.
Yeah, and in this case, I submit that the DP swindled himself. We would like to anchor our final submission to you in an enduring insight which echoes from history.
Wow.
There once lived a man named Primo Levi, an Italian Jewish chemist who bore witness to and survived the horrors of the Nazi concentration camp at Auschwitz. In 1986, a year before he died, he gave an interview in which he shared a profound observation. Hitler and Mussolini, when they spoke in public, were believed, applauded, admired, adored like gods. They were charismatic leaders. They possessed a secret power of seduction that did not proceed from the credibility or the soundness of the things they said, but from the suggestive way in which they said them. Primo Levi went on to add that we must remember that their faithful followers were ordinary men. Monsters exist, but they are too few in number to be truly dangerous. More dangerous are the common men, the functionaries ready to believe and to act without asking questions.
Wow.
This warning by Primo Levi, in our considered view, aligns a little too chillingly well with Ruto and his army of sycophants, a case of past as prophecy. Ruto is a charismatic demagogue who makes the masses swoon with the power of his seduction, despite his claims being devoid of credibility and soundness. He succeeds because lies are often like sweet nectar. His Excellency, the late President Moi, once warned about how siasa za upinzani ni tamu sana. The principal assistant to the president is waist deep in siasa za upinzani, constantly contradicting the head of state and ridiculing his legacy, and yet he refuses to resign. While the president is focused on nation building and development, the deputy president heckles him and thrives on convenient doublespeak, blatant lies, and disinformation, and still refuses to resign.
Amen.
He has the audacity to tell us that Uhuru Kenyatta's regime was only successful in the first term when he still had his hands on the levers of power. This man's hubris is such that he prefers us to believe that Uhuru Kenyatta's regime is only successful when he, William Ruto, is front and center. When the president invited Raila and other national leaders to the table for the sake of unity and progress, which were the same motivations for Ruto, all of a sudden for Ruto, national unity was no longer a principle worthy of pursuit because it did not tally with his irrational hunger for power. He is simply dishonest.
Yes.
This is a man, while still the deputy party leader of Jubilee, held what he unflinchingly labeled a parliamentary group meeting for UDA in wanton disregard of the Political Parties Act and the Constitution. Worse still, he had the indecency and the audacity to advance the UDA agenda at the official residence of the deputy president. This is a man who admitted on camera that he is no longer the substantive deputy president, yet he still refuses to resign as he campaigns across the country using taxpayer money.
Yes.
This is a man who will hold a televised press conference with almost 200 people standing behind him, with virtually no social distancing, and he will tell us he respects the Ministry of Health COVID directives. To further insult our intelligence, with the 200 sycophants standing behind him, packed together like sardines, he will add that the government, which he is but he also isn't a part of, should do something more about COVID. Yet the only social distancing they were practicing was being far from the truth. You cannot tell us this man isn't dishonest. The question is this: is Ruto the monster Primo Levi warned us about? Caveat emptor. Buyer beware.
Beware
Incredibly
indeed. Wow. Hey, that was like a poem.
Now, we have a three-part criteria that we use to judge the headlines. We ask ourselves three questions. Is the headline topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, thoughtful or just plain lazy? What are our thoughts on the headlines today?
The Star headline, I think, made me want to pick the paper, but it didn't really capture me that much. So I don't think I have a winning headline in my mind.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, GK, because all the headlines left me wanting a little bit something more. They were either lacking in truth or in substance, or just didn't make me want to pick up the paper and buy it. So no winning headline for me.
Yeah, GK, I can see why you like the Star, because it is true. The DP did trash Kenyatta's legacy, but all said and done, no winning headline today. Now on to the political pieces we call cartoons in this country. What do we have here?
Right, so in the Daily Nation, the cartoon that we have is a picture of a revolving door. On the one hand, you have the words Enter New Coalition, and on the other side of the door, you have the words Exit Old Coalition. And you see, the standard archetype for politicians in cartoons, the pigs, kind of walking around this revolving door. And the pig is saying, new look, fresh blood, fresh ideas. What do you guys think?
This cartoon is the truth. It is the truth. That is what has been happening. MPs are saying they're leaving and they're just going around a revolving door. So you know what? I am pro the nation. I really think it's true. It is very glaringly obvious and very simple, but sometimes simple is more effective than the complicated.
Yeah, it reminds me of the words in the book of Matthew that you cannot put new wine into old wineskins. GK, what do we have in the standards?
Okay, so we have two Kenyans celebrating, running on the Olympic track in Tokyo 2021. And then you have Mzungus on the floor saying, and now they have started being better in short races. God help us. So this cartoon is sort of referencing the victory in the 800 meters by Emmanuel Correa and Ferguson Rotich, who got gold and silver. And then when they're speaking about they're doing better in short distances, I think they're talking about how Omanyala, I believe, got his personal best in the 100 meters. He didn't qualify, but he did better than we've ever done before. So it's a nice, it's a nice cartoon. I guess if there's nothing to speak about, talk about the Olympics.
Yeah, our team in Tokyo always do us proud, and I think that's an excellent cartoon. In the Star, we have Ruto and his sycophants in a wheelbarrow on the runway of an airstrip just outside an airplane with a red carpet sliced in half and slightly rolled back. And I think this is in reference to his recent aborted trip to Uganda. And I like the caption of the cartoon: the red flags leave more question marks than answers. In a recent interview, Ruto told us that the last time he was in Uganda, he went there on the invitation of an investor who he helped facilitate $150 million for
15 billion.
Yeah, when he was opposing our own COVID vaccine agenda. But he's using that to defend this trip, but he wasn't telling us why he was going there this time. So yeah, the Star is very right. raises a lot of questions. Plus, the passenger manifest. There were questions about some of the people who were on that flight, and it raises security questions. So more questions than answers. So red flags and no more red carpets.
I'm willing to make a bold prediction that this will not be the first red flags cartoon we're going to see of William Ruto.
I agree.
We're going to see many more in the next 1 year.
So what's our winning cartoon today?
I think it's a toss-up between, in my opinion, The Nation and The Star. But The Star...
Well, I think it's The Star. Honestly, hands down, their cartoon was definitely the most relevant for our current political conversation and landscape. So definitely The Star.
Yes, this man needs to be held to account.
Yes.
I agree. The Star. So on a day when we had no winning headline and a winning cartoon from The Star, we would like to leave you with this quote from Haile Selassie. Throughout history, it has been the inaction of those who could have acted, the indifference of those who should have known better, the silence of the voice of justice when it mattered most, that have made it possible for evil to triumph.
Wow.
Thank you for joining us on Winning Headlines, and do have a great weekend.